Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. This is episode 3 of Yield TV. I'll be joined here by Simone Lapscher. Let's get started. Hey, so Simone, thanks for joining me. So just a little background. Today, we are going to talk about the new Liquality Wallet. This is a browser extension wallet that you can also do atomic swaps in. I've known Simone for a few years now. We've worked together, and he's always been on the bleeding edge of DeFi that is truly disintermediated, truly trustless. And we'll talk a little bit more about like what that actually means. But anyways, Simone, thanks for joining. How are you doing?
Good, man. It's good to be here and good seeing you again on the other side.
Yeah, I know, right? I gotta say, like, this streaming tool makes it look like I actually know what I'm doing, even though I really don't. Look at these. Look, I got banners. I can do whatever I want.
Don't be humble. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm thinking eventually when there's like some guest, maybe if I have someone in the future and they're a jerk, I could just start putting up banners like, don't listen to him, he's an idiot.
Don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay, what we'll do is, per usual, we'll interview for about 30 minutes, and then we'll let folks ask questions and try to talk through some. Really, I would love to have questions more related to Liquality Wallet, but it's kind of open game, and we'll see if we can answer them as they relate to DeFi. But before we do get started, I want to just briefly cover what Synthetix released in the last day. So Synthetix is a platform where you can gain on-chain exposure to, in the future, hopefully any asset. It's one of the most popular DeFi platforms on Ethereum. And they allow you to trade things like Forex, cryptocurrencies that don't exist, on Ethereum. You can get exposure to, in the future, equities, but right now there's a few different popular indices on it, and also commodities like gold or silver. So anyways, it's a big deal that they are moving to optimistic Ethereum, which is an L2 solution. One of the reasons it's a big deal is that gas prices have been sky high. That sucks. It prevents people from being able to participate in DeFi, and it just makes it too costly. Like it's a barrier to entry for a lot of folks. So let me go and share my screen here of what exactly they released. And here we go. Okay, so normally when you trade on Synthetix, you have the ability to gain exposure to synths, and those are essentially derivatives. And in order for that to happen, those synths have to be minted, and they're minted by over collateralizing and creating what's called synthetic USD. It's kind of similar to Maker, but I think much more expansive in its vision. And so anyways, long story short here, this is on a test net with optimistic Ethereum. It means that folks who had 1 to 2,500 SNX in their wallets and had ever staked with Synthetix, if you go to L2.minter, that's mintr.synthetix.io, you should have gotten an airdrop of the SNX that I think is necessary to test on this new test net. And anyways, yeah, you can go in, and I can't actually do it because I don't qualify for this, but it's pretty cool because like
you're too big of a whale.
I'm a guppy for sure. But I do, yeah, more than 2,500 SNX, I guess, whatever that.
Just joking. Yeah.
But this is something that for those of us who have staked in SNX, weekly we are minting synths, or most of the time we are, and then you're going here to claim your rewards. You actually, receive rewards. Well, this is something that costs a lot of gas and a lot of time. So, long story short, like if this was more than 0 SNX, since weekly, I would normally have a reward there for continuing to provide the service of over collateralizing synths. I would click claim, and then it allows me on this instance, an L2 instance, I'm able to just give a signature, and you notice the transaction's already completed. That is not the way that DeFi apps normally work. It's painful to watch these transactions, sit there pending for several minutes, sometimes hours. So anyways, take a look at that.
And I think that people weren't able to claim before because the gas prices were exceeding their rewards, right? And so now it's pretty cool to see this.
Yeah. And again, like end of day, like is the point for folks who were early adopters to aggregate all of their rewards? It's like that's not inclusive. Like we want other people to be able to try participating in these like really awesome DeFi applications. So anyways, that's all I've got to say on that. Let's go ahead and talk more about Liquality Wallet then. So Simone, do you want to maybe let's just start with like who you are, your background, what is Liquality, the protocol, and then maybe tell us more about the wallet, and we'll screen share too. We can actually see it in action.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm Simon Lapscher. I'm the co-founder of Liquality, a cross-chain exchange network. And so I'm originally from Venezuela. I was born and raised there. So I got to see kind of like firsthand the downside of living under an authoritarian government, and really seeing the censorship and the power of a dictatorship over your money. And so that kind of like got me into I was working in consulting in the US, and focused in payments, and that's when I heard about Bitcoin in 2013, just to try to help my friends and family back in Venezuela escape some of the controls that the government was posing on them. And so that's how I got started. I fell down that rabbit hole and tried to do something at Deloitte. I helped co-found their blockchain practice, and then I moved on to Consensus, which is the largest blockchain venture studio, and there I founded Liquality when I met Alex and Tessie, our other co-founders, and so Liquality essentially is the most secure and easy way to exchange between different blockchains, right? So today, blockchains live in silos. So Ethereum's having an incredible moment. DeFi is exploding. We just crossed $10 billion in value locked, but all of that is inside Ethereum. There's still $280 billion of crypto assets outside, and even beyond that, there's trillions of dollars of value waiting to be unlocked outside of the crypto sphere itself. But those assets can't really come into Ethereum in a trustless way. You can't exchange back and forth in a trustless way. So people end up going to centralized exchanges like Binance, where you have Bitcoin, you have Binance Chain, you have other Monero, all of the other existing blockchains. Because they're able to provide that service. In Ethereum, what's starting to happen is that you have these kind of like tokenized representations like WBTC or RenBTC that are trying to essentially bring in an IOU of the actual native asset into Ethereum so that it can play with the composability of Ethereum. And so we're trying to offer an alternative to that. And basically bring a cross-chain world where you're interacting with the native assets directly in a way that's completely usable and much more secure.
Yeah. I know what's striking about it is just the ability to skip the exchange. I mean, it's something that we've all sort of lived with for years, and it's been pretty explosive over really like the last 6 months. So, I think about you guys, atomic swaps. And then I think about tokenized Bitcoin, which is like Ren protocol and Trustless BTC just like re-released. So let's talk about that a moment. What's the profile of a user that is going to want to use this new Liquality wallet, or the ability with Liquality to do atomic swaps without having to go through an exchange?
Yeah, so I think it's the market for Bitcoin to Ethereum is probably the largest market out there in centralized exchanges, and now that DeFi is exploding, as like I said, I think even more markets starting to realize. And if you go to a centralized exchange, most of them are between Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still the biggest asset and chain that we have, and everything really revolves and is correlated more or less to Bitcoin. And so any Bitcoiner that wants exposure into other assets is going to want to use this wallet, because it's no sign, you don't have to sign up, you don't have to KYC, there are no fees associated to it. And so any Bitcoin that wants to go into the DeFi space will be using this and is using this. And then on the other side as well, anybody that is on the Ethereum side and wants access to the real native Bitcoin as a store of value, in a way that you don't have to trust anything, right? If you go into WBTC, you're trusting the custodian. If you go into RenBTC, you're trusting Ren's blockchain. So if you don't want, if you want, go into Bitcoin, but you want the actual asset, which is miles away from any representation, then you're going to want to use this. We're also getting some usage from people in authoritarian countries, so under authoritarian regimes like Argentina and Venezuela, that are using this as the most secure way to go from DAI or stablecoins into Bitcoin and vice versa, to escape some of the controls that the government is imposing on them. So they don't want to go through centralized exchanges, and this is the easiest and best option.
Simone, why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and just screen share now, and I'd love to have people actually see the wallet in action. I used it when it was still on testnet, and I downloaded it this morning onto my Chrome browser, but yeah, I think it makes a lot more sense once you see it. Oh,
can you see my screen?
Here we go. Now you're good.
Okay. So essentially our Liquality Wallet, which is the product that we released yesterday, is a Chrome extension wallet that is a multi-chain wallet. So you have, let me go to the lock screen, right? So you have your Liquality Wallet here is a Chrome extension that you download. You first onboard by getting your seed phrase and storing that in a safe place. And then you come in, you put a password, and then you start immediately. You see that you have all of your Ethereum assets, so ETH, DAI, Tether, Bitcoin, wrap Bitcoin, but you also have Bitcoin in here. And so as we start adding more and more chains, right now it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and ERC20. But as we start adding more chains, you see that they all live in an equal playing field. There's no reason why we should have, an Ethereum wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, a Monero wallet, right? These all can definitely live together side by side. And as a user, I don't want to know, and I don't want to have the friction of owning multiple different wallets.
Yeah.
I want to benefit from, doing everything I can in a centralized exchange in a completely trustless way. And so that's what we have here. If we go, inside our Ethereum wallet, and so basically I haven't done any transactions here, so I can send my Ether to an address. I can receive, of course, and then the most interesting feature that is inside the wallet is the connection to our cross-chain atomic swaps. And basically what this is a way to exchange, again, from one chain to another in a completely trustless way. And so stop me, Travis, if you have any questions that you think I'm missing.
This to me is what's most important, because I know a friend of mine, Ricardo Diaz, who I think is moving back to Argentina, but he travels there a lot, and he has lots of friends that he's onboarded to DeFi, and it's just so crucial that there's zero need for them to interact with an exchange or to do it as little as possible. And so I know this is something I haven't talked to him about this just because it just happened in the last day, but I think about the stories he tells, the stories you've told me, and the goal here again is just to be able to swap between the two chains, because there's more liquidity in Bitcoin than any other crypto asset in the world. So the difference here I want to call out, though, is this is for the person who this is for someone who they are actually doing a swap. So it's not like I'm maintaining exposure to Bitcoin or to Ether. I'm swapping in and out of these. But I think part of the reason that you all have focused on this is just because there are what are the downsides normally to like tokenized Bitcoin? Like, what can you just run me through some of those again? Like, it's something like that's not going away, and I continue to use it, but I recognize that like there's risk that I take on by holding tokenized Bitcoin.
Yeah, essentially, the major risks are the fact that these models, what they're doing is reincarnating the existing problems in our financial system into these representations. So when the beautiful thing about Bitcoin and crypto assets is that once you own them, you are in control of that asset, right? There's nothing that can stop you from using it and from exchanging it or from spending it somewhere, right? When you onboard into a wrapped Bitcoin, for example, you are going through a custodian. So you're putting your Bitcoin into a custodian and you're getting wrapped Bitcoin in return. And those are, they have to go through KYC, and you can hold wrapped Bitcoin without KYC, but you're exposing yourself to the risk that wrapped Bitcoin can freeze your tokens, right? In the same way with, for example, Ren Bitcoin, Ren is a little bit more decentralized, but currently, they hold the keys to all of the Ren blockchain, right? The team, and they have a roadmap to decentralization that I want to see come true. But essentially, it's all you're trusting someone in the middle to hold your value, right? At any moment in time, they can take that away from you, and that's exactly the opposite of the value proposition of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I think it's good to be educated on this stuff. I have exposure to Ren Bitcoin. I have exposure to wrapped Bitcoin. I feel like wrapped Bitcoin's like the dirty secret in Ethereum. Everybody uses it, even though there's criticism of it. And it's been exciting what Ren has done, but at the same time, like there is I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. There's like a greater assurance I know of me holding Ether or Bitcoin and swapping between the two. So
I think there's room for everything, right? So we offer wrap Bitcoin inside the wallet because wrap Bitcoin right now is the leading way to interact with DeFi, right? So if you want to go from Bitcoin into wrap Bitcoin, we offer that option, and there should always be the option. But as a user, it's important to understand that when you're going into these representations, these non-Bitcoin Bitcoins, that you're taking on additional risk. So when it's the same way as when you're using DeFi, right? When you're using DeFi and you're using a protocol that has multiple layers of composability of things that have been stacked upon things, you're trusting essentially that all of those stacks work together well and that there's no bug inside them. But we've seen that that's not the case. And so it's just a matter of understanding the risk. And I think that giving access to the broader ecosystem outside of Ethereum to interact in a native way with their assets, I think is really powerful. And that's why we're focused.
Yeah. And we're just talking again about like understanding that risk and being educated on it, because the worst feeling in the world is, let's pretend like the worst thing ever happens. You want to know why, like you want to have prepared for it and tried to mitigate that risk. Simone, I interrupted you though earlier as you were in the middle of this. Can you do a swap like right now?
Yes, yeah, of course. So basically let's go back, right? I have all of my assets, and so I want to swap some Ether for Bitcoin. I can, choose what I want, change the amounts, and it'll give me a rate.
Wow.
And I can even send it to an external address. So if I have a Bitcoin ledger, for example, a hardware wallet that I trust more than the Liquality wallet because it's a Chrome extension, then I can send it directly there. And so that's a pretty powerful feature. And then I can choose my network speeds, right? Fast, slow, etc. for both chains. So I'm going to choose fast for Ethereum. And then, it'll give me a confirmation screen, say how much I'm paying in fees. And something important to note here, because we were discussing gas before, is that the way Liquality works is that users themselves are deploying the contracts for the swaps. And what that means is that you're not using a central contract that is controlled by an admin. You are yourself deploying contracts that are used for each transaction. And not only is that good for privacy and security, but that's also, we've made it more optimized so that it's less expensive in terms of gas costs. So it consumes less fees than a normal swap would, which is pretty important nowadays with the risk, with the high fees. And so all it takes is then I'm going to initiate a swap, and that's it. So there's multiple steps that are happening in the background. But the beautiful thing about the wallet is that we've automated away all of the complexity. So I'm getting a notification saying that the swap has been initiated, and I can click on it and see what is happening and what's going to happen. So, it shows me what I've sent, what I'm going to receive, and then I can see the process of a cross-chain atomic swap. So I locked my ETH, and I can go here and go to Etherscan to see it, how much I paid. Now the counterparty is locking its BTC in an escrow on Bitcoin. And once that happens and it gets a confirmation, I'm going to be able to claim that Bitcoin, and the counterparty will claim my ETH. And so you can see here the counterparty already sent. What's that?
That's what's happening behind this. When you say, then I'm going to be able to claim my Bitcoin, that's just happening here automatically. Like
it's all happening automatically. That's right. That's part of why we went with this wallet option, is because we created a wallet automation engine that allows us to build complex processes into one click. And so now I can see all of this is just for transparency and information. If you don't want any of this, you can just do the one-click swap and wait for it to complete, and that's it.
Yeah. And then the 2 of 4, is that referring to like the step laid out there? Or is that like 4 Ethereum transactions, or like 4 block confirmations, or 4 Bitcoin block?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we should probably make it clear. So we kind of like list the step here. So now the step is 2 of 4 is locking Bitcoin. So if you go in here, there's locked ETH, right? There's initiation, there's the counterparty locks at the Bitcoin, then you claim, and then it's done. So those are the four steps that we take into account.
Yeah, that's really, since it was on the testnet, that this is definitely much clearer. Yeah, it looks really nice. I think it's just really important to know these like different solutions, because there are times where I do want tokenized Bitcoin, and there's times where especially, I mean, hopefully we go through some raging bull market, but like, yeah, there's going to be times where I want to, lessen my exposure to one of these, or be able to go back and forth without going through an exchange. So yeah, good.
And I think the way, just to give you a little bit of taste of what we're going for, basically, this will right now, this wallet can hold, send, and swap, receive and swap. But as we move forward, basically, not only are we going to be adding more chains, and so you'll be able to interact with different chains natively inside the wallet, but you'll also be able to interact directly from those chains into, for example, DeFi. So you'll be able to use your Bitcoin to go directly into, let's say a Yearn vault in one click, right? And vice versa. So you'll be able to go from a Yearn vault into Bitcoin or other assets. And apart from that, you'll be able to interact with all of the decentralized applications in whichever asset you want. So if you're someone that is from the Near protocol, right, and you have Near tokens, and you're very committed to that community, if we add Near to the wallet, then you'll be able to, even if the application in the background does not accept Near, you'll be able to convert Near in real time for Ether and use the application with your Near token. So it's kind of like this invisible translation that's going to happen in the background.
Very cool. Simone, what are the limitations of the wallet right now? Like, I'd imagine like liquidity is one thing. Like, what would you say is the largest swap that one could safely put through right now?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely limited by liquidity right now. I think the largest swap also is somewhere around 40 to 50K, and we're adding more liquidity as we speak. The largest swap we've had so far, I think, has been around 80, close to 80 or 90K. And then the other limitation is that we're starting with the wallet, so it's very powerful in the sense that it's a cross-chain wallet and allows you to hold multiple assets. But we have a lot of features to add that are table stakes. Like for example, being able to add any ERC20. Right now, it's only a fixed set of assets that we hold in the wallet, so we're adding them as we go. Yeah, and I think the other limitation is that we're still in layer one, right? And so what that means is that for Bitcoin swaps, it'll take as long as a Bitcoin confirmation takes, which on average is 10 minutes, but could be shorter or longer. And so that's definitely a limitation.
Cool. Yeah, by the way, there's some questions here. We can just cover them as we go. You mentioned escrow. Someone else was asking the same question. Yeah, what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, of course. So great question, because I didn't clarify. So all of these swaps are completely user controlled. And when I said that the user deploys the smart contract, what that means is that the user is deploying an escrow contract on the chain that they're interacting, right? So if I have let's say in this swap, I had Ether and I wanted Bitcoin. What I did was I deployed a smart contract that acted as escrow on the Ethereum chain. So I sent my Ether to a contract that only I control, and that once I give permission, which is cryptographically, more technically, once I share my secret, the counterparty can obtain. But up until then, only I can touch that escrow contract, and no one else. Even after I share my secret, no one else is able to claim that but the counterparty. And so these are user-controlled escrows that are deployed to each chain. So what the process, again, just to be very clear, is I deploy an escrow that I control to the Ethereum chain. Once that's confirmed, the counterparty deploys an escrow to the Bitcoin chain that they control. And then once those two are locked and confirmed, then we can both claim from each other's escrow at the same time. So it's called an atomic swap, which means it either happens for both of us or it doesn't happen at all, right?
Simone, someone on Twitter was asking, I think yesterday, is it possible to become a liquidity provider with Liquality? And if so, how would you do that?
Yeah, so today you can. It's very technical. So we put most of our efforts in building a very usable, kind of like retail focused wallet. And so you can. It requires a lot of technical knowledge. We have the documentation that we can share for you to become a market maker. It requires you to kind of like stand up what we call a market maker agent, which is a kind of like a server based wallet. But as we move forward, where we want to go with this is that the wallet contains all of the functionality to be able to be a liquidity provider. And so we want to enable users to provide liquidity directly from their wallets. And that's important for a variety of reasons. But the main one is that if you're a liquidity provider in Uniswap, what you're doing is you're deploying your liquidity into a contract that is Uniswap's contract, right? Where we want to go is that you have your wallet, you have your assets that you control, and you're just enabling those assets to be liquidity available to the network. And so you'll have a network of wallets that are all talking to each other peer-to-peer and getting liquidity from each other. So interacting directly without having to deposit anywhere. So it's much more capital efficient and kind of like secure and private in that way.
I have one more question for you, Simone. It relates to the fact that so Liquality powers atomic loans, which I'm just going to quickly show here. So atomic loans is it's the ability to collateralize Bitcoin, and then you are borrowing USDC or DAI. So I'm not sure if that'll show up. Oh yeah, that's right. This is newer because they relaunched recently. Anyways, I guess my question for you is, do you know when Atomic Loans is going to start new loan requests again? And then also, if you've spoken with the team recently, was curious, would I be able then to use the Liquality wallet? Because I'm trying to remember the process I went through to use it. And I'm like wondering.
Yeah, you had to use MetaMask and Ledger.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I guess like, do you all have a vision for Liquality Wallet being similar to the way that like MetaMask works, where it's it's conveniently on my browser versus I think the sort of clunkiness that we all experience right now using a ledger?
Yeah, absolutely. So that does not exist today, a cross-chain usable wallet, and that's what we're aiming to do, right? And I think we're in a really good position to make that happen because of the protocol that we've built, which is it basically puts again each blockchain in an equal level playing field. Whereas most wallets that exist today are Ethereum wallets that are now trying to figure out how to do cross-chain. And so, yes, in terms of atomic loans, I don't know when they'll be reopening for loans. I think they're switching their underlying infrastructure to a more Bitcoin focused, based on discrete log contracts. And so we have to wait for them to let us know. But yes, you in that event, you'd be able to use the Liquality Wallet for a much better experience, where you can just sign kind of like those transactions with the Liquality Wallet, regardless of which chain you're in. And even beyond that, because we have, like I mentioned, that wallet automation engine that allows you to do, take multiple complex transactions and wrap them up in one click, you'd be able to do these loans or do these kind of like complex transactions that involve multiple steps in just one click directly from the wallet.
Very cool. Yep. Yeah, makes sense. That'll be exciting. I know ledgers are not the most user friendly right now. There's a lot of challenges there, but I do want to call out and recognize though that keeping crypto in a ledger or a hardware wallet is still much more secure than using a browser extension. So please,
and I think what's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's coming down the roadmap for us as well is having ledger integration directly in the wallet. So kind of like just plugging it in and having the security of the ledger with the usability of the wallet. Because we appreciate ledger security, but we also our first web application works directly with ledger, and we've seen some good adoption of that. But it was the major blocker for usability was using ledger or these cross-chain atomic swaps is very clunky, and so that's part of the reason that inspired us to build this wallet actually.
Absolutely, yeah, and that would be comparable then to the way that you can connect to your ledger to MetaMask. There's like an wallet. That's the idea, right? Have you actually, Simone? I'm curious. Do you have you used that recently? Because I personally haven't used that, at least in the last month. And I mean, it was clunky, but I heard actually from Seb, who's one of the co-founders of Zapper, was telling me that it's gotten a little bit better. And but it's still like apparently there's still bugs that show up. Like you can like hit confirm on that and find that like, I don't know, it doesn't confirm the transaction.
I have not used it recently. I think last time I used that was probably 2-3 months ago.
Interesting. Okay, so we're open for questions now. Like we'll probably be on here another like 15, 20 minutes. I guess Simone, maybe some more like general questions for you. I guess what do you think in terms of what's happened lately with like a downturn in the market? Like, I guess, do you see that as a good thing potentially? Because I'll tell you, like, I feel like we've been in a little bit of a mania, and I feel like when there's drawdowns, people tend to focus on more quality again. So like, look, well, I guess quality is in the name Liquality, but yeah, anyway, I've kind of been grateful for it. Like, I'm curious, like, do you feel the same way?
Definitely. So I think that usually these cycles are, not usually, these cycles are good because each part of the cycle allows us to have different kind of like advantages. And so in a hype and mania cycle, you have more people coming in that hopefully stay, kind of like go through the BS, right, that is happening and some of the scams, and then just kind of like stay for the actual value proposition. And so I think that, and it also allows us to experiment much faster. So this hype cycle just was continuous, incredible fast paces of experimentation, all the food tokens that were, all the fast forks, and that's going to continue to happen. But it's just it wasn't at an accelerated pace. That also, of course, brings in all the scams, right?
Yeah.
And all the rug pulls and people getting hurt, and people that are not fully understanding of what they're using, just going heads down into into this. So I think overall, to me, it's a really good thing, because it allows us to focus on the things that have fundamentals that really matter, and not just things that are, let's chase that 1000% yield. I don't think that's not why I got into this space. And I think there's much more than just greed. And I think these cycles tend to just very much target the greed mind of the human being. And it's that part of us is so powerful that kind of like just makes us forget about everything else. And so I think kind of like pulling back now and saying, okay, what is it that I'm actually doing here, and can I take a step back and focus on what actually matters to improve the space and to bring use to the people that actually need it, not just whales moving around money and making more money.
Yeah, there's definitely these cycles of greed and fear. I think that's like the common way to describe it. And there's also a concept of reflexivity. So like, if folks are unfamiliar with that, it kind of means that like, once you get momentum moving in a certain direction, like it really sort of builds upon like it keeps building. And so that's why like we will tend to see prices in the market shoot up and continue to shoot up. And then when we're in a downturn, which this is, I'm not where we are right now. Like, I think like at a macro level, we're probably in a bull market. But just,
Great.
If you look at like a short-term cycle, prices have fallen for at least 50% in most tokens. And when they fall, like you said, the fear kicks in, and people, that's where you find, folks, may, for good reason or bad reason, start selling at lower prices. And then it always seems like we always start to kick back up. But let's to something that's more interesting other than prices. Simone, tell me, what are some of the DeFi projects that you think are lesser known that you would recommend folks look into? Also, too, I want to call out the fact that, like, while you live in the US now, obviously you have like some family roots still in Venezuela, and obviously you're very connected with some other friends in South America. Like, you always talk to me about some of like the really cool projects that I think haven't gotten as much attention. I thought Value was one of them, VAIU, but curious, like, could you tell people more about some of those projects that are really like, I think like making a difference in the lives of folks who urgently need DeFi and crypto and Bitcoin and Ether, versus, I think, the US, it's, there's quite a bit of privilege in the US and other parts of the world.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think that so I'll mention Value again because you brought it up. Value is a way, so that they're using Bitcoin backed derivatives in the same way that Abra was doing, to basically allow people to convert from Venezuelan bolivars to Colombian pesos, and to now they have about a USD representation as well. And they're taking a more centralized approach. So there's definitely risks to using this, but it essentially solves a real problem, right? There's people in Colombia, or Venezuelans, that have fled to Colombia because of the terrible situation in the country. Yeah. And they need to send money back. So they're earning in pesos in Colombia, and they need to send money back home to Venezuela, or vice versa. And this app allows you to do that without the government kind of like controlling it. So usually when there's an application like this, the government shuts it down because and so this allows you to do that in a more decentralized way, and in a much faster and with a better price, and it allows you to save in dollars, which is something that almost all Venezuelans and most Latin Americans want, because they don't want to be, in the US, we're very privileged that, now we're just starting to think about, what happens if the government prints $4 trillion and there's inflation, and that inflation is what, 2 to 10%. And if we get to 10%, the world's going to go mad. But in Venezuela, we're in the millions of percentages in inflation, right? And so people have no incentive whatsoever to hold on to the Venezuelan currency unless it's to spend on the day-to-day life. And so I think this project's really good. Another project that's in Venezuela that I want to call out is Locha Mesh. And what this is Randy Brito. He's also in Consensus, in the Consensus family. So what they do, and they're still very early, but they're building a Bitcoin network just a mesh network of Bluetooth that allows you to send cryptocurrency transactions and allows you to use the internet without internet. And so so a really big problem that exists in the world is that in Venezuela you have that and many other countries, internet's not reliable, right? And so you end up with when there's no internet, you can't use Bitcoin, you can't use crypto, you can't use any application. So what they're doing is they're constructing an offline network that sends transactions, and that once kind of like one node connects back online, it kind of like restores the state. And so it's pretty impressive stuff. And they're kind of like very low key. Just a few people, open source, doing it the kind of like the cypherpunk way.
And can you remind me how do you spell that again, or what's the name of the project?
Locha, Locha.
Okay, Locha. And do you know what the website is?
I'll look it up right now, but I'm not sure.
Share it here, Locha. I'm just looking up Locha crypto to see.
It's locha.io.
There we go. Cool. Let me just share that here quickly in case anybody wants to look it up later. Locha Mesh. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Chat and send Bitcoin without internet. Yeah, this, I tend to focus obviously more on all Ethereum applications, but like, I really think it's important for us all to like remain open-minded and to like, and this goes even beyond like Bitcoin and Ethereum, just to continue to like, continue to encourage these sorts of innovations, because I think we have an interoperable future. My argument is always that Ethereum is probably the largest landmass in that decentralized finance world. But like right now, one of the most exciting things in the last year has been the tokenization, or the lack of friction to move from Bitcoin chain to chain over to Ethereum. Like, it's huge. And it's, I mean, if you go to BTC on Ethereum, here we go. There's a really cool website called btconethereum.com. It even like shows you live charts, which it's kind of ridiculous at this point.
It's over 1.2 billion. And there's just, I think yesterday there was like a 2,300 wrapped Bitcoin mint by Alameda, right? Alameda Research. And so there's definitely demand for it. People want to use Bitcoin to get yield. I think the Bitcoin ecosystem is segmented into the people that are only Bitcoin and are always going to hold their Bitcoin no matter what. There's the people that want to use their own Bitcoin, that kind of like to really basically utilize that as yield, and there's other people that are willing to compromise and kind of like go into the wrapped Bitcoin and kind of like have that security for or have that compromise for the yields and the returns.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the results. Like, it's clear that once people have a route to interoperability, they take it. no one's, there's more people who are happy to take advantage of it than to sit around, virtue signaling about why they shouldn't use it. As long as the security is there too. I know I feel like one of the things that I've always learned from you is, I'll try anything and I get excited for it, but there should consistently be a focus on making sure that these are secure solutions and that we're not just, like you said, like rebuilding, what do I want to say, like reincarnating some of the systemic risks of the traditional finance system.
Yeah, I mean that's what scares me the most, right? Every day when I see kind of like the that growth, and not only that growth, but also the permissionless innovation of DeFi. I love it, and I think it's leading to incredible things. But at the same time, it might be creating for some applications the wrong incentives to recreate and automate and automate some of these really really corrupt and broken things that we have in our current system. That we're building a parallel system for a reason, and that is to try to have another go at making it more secure, and making it kind of like or reduce the systemic risk that exists. And I'm not sure if we're doing that.
Yeah, there was a question here from Wilson. I think what he's saying is, what's something in DeFi that we should aim to make more popular, or maybe it's what's something that we should like lead with to get more people to adopt DeFi, crypto in general. Any thoughts on that, Simone?
I think it's just a process. I don't think it's overnight. I think we're doing all the right things in terms of how do we can't put the cart in front of the horse. And so if we can't onboard people without knowing that they'll be secure, we shouldn't do it, right? And so there's a lot of shortcuts that we could take, but what's important is building the right infrastructure and building it day by day. And this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And so I think that these hype cycles are really good because they bring in people that want to learn more, and as they kind of like we have to improve the user experience. We have to make it much more interactable, integratable with the existing world. Right now it's very kind of like siloed with the crypto world and everything else. And so I think Synthetics, for example, does a really good job at starting to bring some of that external derivatives world into the DeFi space. And very soon you won't be able to know what's DeFi and what isn't. We'll be able to kind of like in the same way that we've gone from manual, non-existing atomic swaps. So just in the context of Liquality, right? This was a concept. It didn't exist in theory. People were just theorizing about atomic swaps. Then someone built it in a very clunky technical way. Then we built the interoperability with Ethereum. Then we built a usable application. Then we built this wallet, which hides away all of the complexity. So it's just a process of how we continue to abstract away the complexity while making sure that we're building the secure foundation. I don't think there's one thing that I would say is going to be the game changer.
I like that. Yeah, abstract away complexity, build a secure foundation. Like that. That's like there's parallels too to the personal computer. If you look back, I think like 80s, early 90s, like it was something that a privileged few had access to, and I've watched a lot of documentaries about it. People talk the same way then about the way we kind of talk about crypto now.
Absolutely.
And even I've seen that I've only been in this space for 3 years, but 3 years ago, I mean, geez, I was so overwhelmed by everything. I remember using my Ether wallet for the first time, and like I participated in one ICO and it successfully went to zero. And what little money I put in, it was just so complex for me to send that Ether. Now, I mean, I've taken my parents and some of their friends and been like, here's the Argent wallet, just download it, follow the instructions, and then showed them pull together. And they're like, holy cow, this is cool. You know, it's like a lotto, even though they missed the grand picture or vision of everything else that's going on in our space. And I think that's pretty remarkable. In a matter of really 3 years, we've gone from, let me show you my Ether wallet, which was, to be fair to them, was, you know, it's 3 years ago, and they've made lots of improvements to where we are now with new solutions. And even like the swap you just did on Liquality Wallet, I mean, it was, I was timing it. It took about 2 minutes or so for it to confirm, and it's all about that user experience of you click, you see confirmations, you can track it. That to me is like the fact you can track through the 4 steps is really important.
You know what's going on. You have trust not in an intermediary, but you have trust in the experience, and what you're being told is going to happen happens. And so I think that it's process, and day by day we're seeing it, and I think it also comes with the adoption, comes with the things that weren't possible before. So for example, when I look at the NFT space, I think some of that is starting to happen. I don't particularly like that space, because scarcity in art is hard to prove, but at the same time, it's starting to show the ability to do things that aren't possible in other things. So it's not just, the games that are getting built right now. It's not just a game that is on a blockchain. Like, you can't just do this, but on a blockchain. You have to be able to actually provide new avenues and kind of like new ways of interacting that weren't existing before. And that's part of the things that Value, for example, that I mentioned, is doing. Synthetics as well is doing this. There's new things that weren't possible in the old world that we can do now, and that's where we're gonna win, is on those edges.
I have been kind of struck by the narrative that NFTs is in like a mania suddenly, because I was like, first off, NFTs have been popular the last few years, but it's been a very niche community. Just like I would argue DeFi is still very niche in general. It's just grown quite a bit. And I honestly can't put a finger on like what is the mania with it, because for example, like I normally go to the WHIP meetup, which is in Crypto Voxels. We have a group of very like passionate artists there. Like, I mean, these are folks who, in many instances, if you talk with them, they were already artists, and then they found out that they could create art, using an NFT, that they could power their art. And then the fact that everyone loves to live in Crypto Voxels, it allows them to like virtually display, and then it gives it greater utility, because if you live virtually in that world, or if you spend a lot of time, you want to replicate the physical world where you have things and you own things, and there's like a pride in owning it. And so you want to display those things in your virtual parcel that is within Crypto Voxels. So it's I can't understand what it is. The only project that I've been following with NFTs that's gotten a lot of traction is you and I, we know Jordan Leal. Good friend. Jordan is an amazing product person, and the whole thing with Meme, just it was a joke, I guess, in a Telegram group, kind of like mocking yield farming. And then Jordan ran with it, and they built a product, and the product is fantastic. I mean, it is the ability to, you just own a token, which I normally find that to be rather risky. But when they launched it, the token was airdropped and it was worth nothing. And then folks started staking Meme and earning the ability to claim art. So like, it's like yield farming NFT art, and it's just fun. I mean, I'm close to minting my first piece of art. Like, I've been hoarding my pineapples, which are the that I earn, so that I can get like the more expensive art technically. But anyways, besides that, like, have you caught anything else in terms of NFTs lately? I can't understand it. Like, where's the mania that everyone's talking about? Like, I don't see people doing crazy stuff right now in terms of spending money.
Yeah, I'm not too involved in the space. I tend to kind of like stay heads down in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I know that people are excited about things like Decentraland that has been there forever. But kind of like buying real estate and being able to build buildings and cities that have a tokenized kind of like certified ownership. So I know that people have been getting excited about that. But yeah, I think meme is just it's pretty cool to see the interaction of yield farming and NFTs. I think they were the first, and they've done a really good job at going with it. I think to me this is just more experimentation uh, than than uh, than anything else. But if this becomes a real way of for artists to make money and to be able to kind of like grow their
Yeah.
following, why not?
Why
If it
not?
gives if it gives power to artists. And I think I don't know if you saw Rack, RIC. He also deployed kind of like his a recent I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was
He
what's
did an
that?
album. He released an album, but the way he like released it was, I I, I thought it was actually like a token as well that went with it, and I thought there was like an NFT that looked like a cassette tape. But I mean, all I know is at the end of the day, people like to own stuff. People like to. There's a sense of pride beyond just like tokens, like people like I mean honestly, like the digital art here that you can see on screen, like I'm not like, I think the one on the far left is really cool, but it's not the one I'm as interested in, and as a result you can tell it's only 10 pineapples. But the one in the to the right of it, which that one I think is really cool looking, and it's 30 pineapples, and I currently have 33 pineapples. So I have 5 memes staked, and I earn 5 pineapples a day. If I had one meme staked, I would earn 1 pineapple a day. The thing about this is, just forewarning, if anyone checks this out, you have to own 1 meme to stake. And meme, currently the token, an ERC20 token, you could go to Uniswap. There's an Ether meme pool there. The problem with it is it went up in price. It just unexpectedly. I mean, this was kind of like it was a joke that turned into a really cool product. And then I think people probably did what I did. Just in the last few weeks, I looked at it and was like, wow, this is like really, this is really cool. Like, I want to participate in this.
Yeah, it's a great experience. I think it caught some of the greed cycle as well, and so people kind of like got involved as well for the price. But I think that the underlying experiment is something that's really cool. Yeah, I just checked out the rack thing. He put up REC. He put up a limited edition cassette tape as an NFT that is redeemable for a cassette tape, and so it's tradable, right? In an open market, and so I think it's cool. I think there's flaws with that process of how do you prove that the token is actually representative of the ownership of the actual thing, which is the same problem that real estate was having when it was trying that there was kind of like a boom 2 years ago of let's tokenize real estate, and there was a few reasons why it wasn't happening. So I think starting with art and starting with gaming gives it a much more kind of like bootstrapping approach than going directly to big real estate buildings. So I think it'll solve itself as we go through, but right, I think we're still at the experimentation phase, which is always good.
Absolutely, yeah. And hey, the speculation shouldn't kill our interest in these projects. It's kind of what do I want to say? It's like the downside that comes. Well, I guess there's a lot of upside to that speculation. It grows our ecosystem and it brings more money in, and ultimately, like, there is money that's needed to fund projects, and there's lots of work that's undervalued. But yeah, all of this goes back to that idea of we have a very reflexive community. When things go down, they really go down. When things go up, they really go up. But
Human nature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I sleep well at night. Like when things do go down, like I sleep pretty well at night knowing it's like, hey, I mean, fundamentally, I know why I'm here. And like, I think this is, I don't judge things based on a week of what happens in our space. If I had, I would have quit several years ago and said, screw this, it's not worth it.
And try to focus less on the price and more on utility and what can you actually do that is helping people and that is helping, move us forward as
absolutely.
because that's it.
So just want to remind everyone again. So, Simone is from Liquality. The wallet that we talked about, Liquality Wallet, you can search it in the Google Chrome store. Simone, any other parting thoughts or things you want to share with folks out there?
No, so go join our Telegram, subscribe to our newsletter so you can stay up to date, and our Twitter so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening. We have a lot more coming. This wallet is the release of the wallet is just a start. We have a lot planned for it, and I think to me there's no logical thought that doesn't lead to a cross-chain interoperable world. We're already seeing it, and so let's build like I said, the right foundation for it, and move as fast as we can while maintaining the security.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for joining. We'll definitely have to do this again, and congrats on the release. It's exciting. Like I said, I've got it on mine all set up already. When you do open up the Liquality Wallet, everyone, just be aware it will ask you to import, which if you haven't used Liquality Wallet, you would be creating it for the first time, right, Simone? Or could I import
You could either import a seed phrase, or you could also go through the creation of a new wallet, which gives you kind of like those 12 words that you have to store. That's right. And then you have the wallet. Yeah.
Very cool. Yep. Yeah. And make sure you write down that seed phrase. That is like the most important thing in the world. Don't skip that. And also Absolutely. Don't screenshot it and leave it on your computer, or like take a picture of it and leave it on your phone. Like assume you can be hacked at some point.
You can go back and see it in the wallet if you need it again, of course. Right. But yeah, you should store it safely. And no, it's really good seeing you at Zapper and thriving in the DeFi space. So I'm happy as well for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's cool too because Zapper is so. Because we have to essentially work with everyone. So it's kind of this privileged position to be in. And I do not think DeFi Dev would have thrived working on a single application. So it's fun to see it all come together.
That's very true.
Thanks for coming. I'm going to play our little video to end the broadcast. We'll be back on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. This should be Monday, Wednesday, Friday at tv.zapper.fi. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a great weekend.